Jewish Board Talk with Charisse Zaffert.
Are we communicating effectively to our different constituencies? Is the message we send out on our social media platforms conveying what we wish to say? And are there tools and techniques that we can use to ensure that our message is coming across clearly? The answer is yes. And to advise us on this, I speak to Mark Stecker, the CEO and founder of Firewater, and Megan Tyack, the PR manager. As always, you're welcome to join in the conversation, and you can do so by tweeting me at ChaiFM. You can SMS me on 34519 and WhatsApp me on 061-895-1019. Firewater is a digital marketing and PR specialist company. CEO and founder Mark Stecker and PR manager Megan Tyack join me now to help us ensure that our messages get across clearly. Megan and Mark, welcome, and thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
So, is the email out of fashion, Megan?
Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. I think that people still, especially on a business-to-business, email marketing has seen a rise. But communication on email, there's still a place for it. It's not dying anytime soon.
Because my experience is sending an email gets ignored and a WhatsApp is answered almost immediately.
It depends on the privacy settings, I guess, on the person you're sending it to.
Is that WhatsApp privacy
yes,
settings?
The blue ticks that
Right.
everyone, which you can change.
You can stalk.
Yeah. Look, it's all about instant gratification. So I think as a society, we've changed. So we have these tools. We want instant answers. Whereas email, if you sent an email in the morning, as long as you reply within a few hours, it's acceptable. But there are tools that we can track emails that are sent in bulk fashion, so we can see who's opened, who's engaged, who's clicked on them. But it all depends on the context. I think it's all about the context and the relevance of the messages, which is what's going to get you a response.
So kind of looking at Megan's response when I said our emails out of fashion, are there times, is it inappropriate to WhatsApp a business colleague?
I don't think that it is. But again, I think it's the message. If I'm going to send a long WhatsApp to a business colleague and ask them, a couple of questions on a project that we're doing, it's very invasive, especially if you're going to be doing that after hours. Then I would say that, you should put that all in an email. But if it's a quick something for I do it a lot where I will send an email and then I'll WhatsApp the person to let them know that I've just sent them an email and it's urgent if they could look at it for me. That's still very appropriate.
So email is still the formal, accepted way of communication.
Definitely.
And that's not going out?
No.
Okay. So then let's look at, we all know how to communicate via email. Do we all know how to communicate via WhatsApp and Facebook and other forms of social media? Are there rules governing it?
I think that we all know the basics of it, but I do think that people and messages gets into the wrong hands and you do it the wrong way. So exactly what we were saying, there are some people that will send a WhatsApp for a business message where it's this long thing with 20 questions and, now you must sit on your phone and try to type everything out. There are those people that do that. There are people that will WhatsApp you at the wrong hour of night or, they'll get upset if they do exactly what Mark was saying. They'll see the 2 blue ticks and you haven't responded and now they start getting irritated with you. It goes the other way where somebody will WhatsApp you and you don't respond and you just forget about it. So I do think that there are the basics that people should follow, especially when it comes to WhatsApp groups. And I think that's where a lot of the contention lies. I will say to a group of, a client and the team, I'm going to add you to a WhatsApp group, and they all immediately roll their eyes and go, oh, no, not another group.
Yeah.
I think that's where people don't follow the rules, and that's where we should be following the rules.
I have noticed, and there are so many different kinds of WhatsApp groups. You start talking to people, there's the mummies one, and then there's a jogging one, and then there's the work one, and then there's the
everything one.
And then the spam one, where the laughing jokes that aren't really funny and often are inappropriate ones. What happens when you do get something that is a little bit icky on a WhatsApp group?
I think it depends on the group and the people in the group, and I think that that's what people always need to be aware of is who are you talking to and where's that message coming from. The groups that I've seen be successful are the groups where there is a strong admin behind it and people are making sure that that icky stuff isn't coming across. I've seen a lot where somebody will send an inappropriate message and the community's jumped on board and said, this is wrong, and that person's been kicked off. That person's no longer getting the message that you want, though. So how are you now going to communicate with them if he's been kicked off for a mistake or for misunderstanding the dynamics of a group?
And then how do you communicate to the person?
I think
or do they deserve to be kicked off and be missing out?
So there are companies and there are resident associations where there is more than one form of communication. So if somebody isn't on a WhatsApp group, they may be on the Facebook page or they may be subscribed to a newsletter. And I think that that's always important to make sure that there are different means of communication, that it's not just one thing. And if somebody unsubscribes from it, well, they're not going to get anything. So at least there's that vital message is still getting across.
When we look at these WhatsApp groups, I am noticing that admin has more and more power.
Definitely. Well, there's different types of groups.
Right.
So there are groups where there's engagement, where anyone can respond, and then there are groups where it's broadcast. So if it's from a brand or from an organization, only the organization will get the replies, which it all depends on what the purpose of the group is. And I think that's where things get lost, is where there is no purpose. So if you understand what the purpose is, then you set it up in the correct fashion. WhatsApp Business is launching soon, which is going to revolutionize things. They're monetizing it, so there's going to be a whole bunch of amazing features for brands or organizations. I think ultimately as a user or on a group, if you don't want to be part of it, you can leave. But there is etiquette in terms of the way conversations need to be held. Tone gets lost in email, gets lost in text messages and WhatsApp. We know that. If you're not prepared to say or send something, in person, then you're certainly not going to send it via a group. And mistakes happen, and those messages can be deleted, which I think a lot of people have forgotten about.
Yeah, so I know that Megan and I are going to have a chat later in the year on just mistakes that we have made. We have to take a break now, but after the break, I'd like to learn a little bit more on ensuring your message is effectively communicated.
Jewish Board Talk with Charisse Zeffert.
And I'm talking to Mark Stecker and Megan Tyack, who are from Firewater, a digital marketing and PR specialist company. And we're talking about effectively getting messages across. And Megan, you were saying that, I think it was actually Mark, that the tone, you can't tell a tone from a WhatsApp or a text message.
Or an email.
Yeah. Okay, and we don't use telephones at all anymore. That's completely
We do that to follow up on emails, I guess.
So would you recommend, is it better to leave voice messages? Is that a better way of communicating to ensure your tone is?
Look, voice notes are massive. I think society's changed in WhatsApp and all the platforms allow for voice messages. So there your tone can't really be misconstrued. But I think ultimately it's about the strategy. So you need to look at what are you trying to say to whom and for what. And if you keep it simple and unemotional in most cases, it should be fine. If it's a social group, it doesn't matter. Anything you're going to say is going to be misconstrued anyway. But if it's,
I know those WhatsApp groups you're on.
Yes. If it's, if it's a business group or a community group, you have to bear in mind why you're on the group and what its purpose is. And once you've got that, then there actually shouldn't be any emotional attachment to it. And some conversations need to be taken offline. Or, in person or on a phone call, I guess. In terms of tone, when we work with businesses, we often set up what's called a tone of voice. And that tone of voice document governs all the communication that we actually create, or content that we would create, or the way the business would communicate with its customers. So I think with any community, it's exactly the same. If one of those is defined up front, you can use that as kind of your template to, how you communicate. It still doesn't change tone. It's something completely subjective.
And would the same apply for Facebook?
Yes.
So it doesn't matter actually what the forum you're sending your message out. It's the rules that govern those messages. And it doesn't really matter whether you're a rabbi sending out messages to your shul community or a businessman.
Yeah. Well, you want to flavor it with your personality. Right. So, as a leader in a community, you've got a certain personality, you've got a brand, and a brand's also got a personality. So you need to carry that all through, and that does come into your tone of voice, but it's completely subjective.
I think people also forget that emojis have saved us so much when it comes to those sorts of things, and it sounds so silly, but it really does make a difference, where you could say something and you put a little smiley face or a laughing face or something, and all of a sudden the person receiving that message now knows, oh, she was joking. She wasn't being vindictive or hurtful, or, it was a joke. I think that saved a lot of fights.
I'm so pleased you brought up emojis, Megan, because initially I was scared of them. And now I realize I don't actually have to say anything. I can just send an entire message.
You can have an entire conversation through smiley faces.
Yes.
But they've evolved.
Yes, but you can get it wrong also. You can accidentally send the wrong message because the emojis don't come with a little caption for all of us to understand.
And they mean different things to different people. So they actually have evolved over time.
Can I ask you specifically about the little monkey?
Yeah.
Is it a little monkey? The little monkey, yes, because that's probably the favorite one. And then suddenly you think, oh my goodness, can that be misconstrued as something that it's not?
We're hypersensitive, so it can.
Yes.
Context. What message is going with the little monkey? I use it when I've made a mistake, and I'll sort of, it's, people can't see me and I'm busy putting my hands over my eyes, but, I'll use it in that context to be like, oh my gosh, I've just made a mistake. I guess if you use it with the wrong message, absolutely anything can.
Yeah, that is true. Anything can be misconstrued.
Yeah, but it's the context. It's all about the message and what you're saying.
In terms of communicating effectively, right, we've got so little characters, and I'm talking now thinking of Twitter, okay?
Yeah.
So I think somebody said the only time Twitter is important is if you make a mistake.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
No, it's a great communication platform to get messages out quickly.
Yes. Carry on.
The uptake in South Africa initially was because of, everyone is very bandwidth conscious or data conscious. So it was, fewer characters, get the message out quickly. But things have evolved into a lot more visual platforms like Instagram, video content. We don't want to read anymore. We just want things played for us. So it's completely evolved. But Twitter is still very relevant. It's got its segments where it's very popular and works really well. And then there are other places where, if it's more visual, it's got to live on a more visual platform like an Instagram.
So is Instagram overtaking Twitter?
It has.
It has.
Yeah, it has.
So do you think Twitter will become eventually irrelevant?
It's debatable because in Africa it's actually extremely popular and extremely successful. It still is, and it's going stronger and stronger. But I think in time it will evolve. There'll probably be one or many other different platforms. It just depends what type of messages we're going to be sending out. I think WhatsApp has transformed a lot of things with voice notes. Those things have always existed on any of the devices, but no one was using them. WhatsApp's revolutionized that.
You know how irritating it is when somebody leaves a message on your phone, right? Yeah. It's so irritating, and if people have stopped doing it actually because you're told not to. Please do not leave a message. Rather send a WhatsApp, right? So a message on a phone is irritating, but a WhatsApp voice message is really, really cool. Why is that?
Because it's live. It's instant gratification again. Voicemail it's offline and saying, please call me back. It's never, here's your message, and then we can respond back with a message. So with a voice note, it's followed by another voice note or a message or a monkey emoji.
It's also a lot more clear. I know when people leave voice messages and then you've got to leave the number and you've got to sit and write down the number and who's now calling and what did they say their name was and which company were they from. Whereas with WhatsApp, I know and I can simply respond straight away. It's not this thing when I get my voice notes, I've actually got it ready. So I'll sit there with my pen and paper and okay, I'm ready to now listen to this message.
It's a conversation. It's not a message.
Yeah,
So is there a tendency, because I know I also fall into it, if somebody whispers and you whisper back, but you don't really know why you're whispering. When you get a voice message, you tend to voice message back, whereas if you get a text, you get a text message back. Is there an etiquette involved with that?
It depends what sort of context, I guess. If it's in a personal sort of context, I guess it doesn't matter. There's some people just pick up the phone and start phoning you because eventually they get irritated. But if it's in a business sort of environment, I think then it is acceptable to kind of respond in either or.
So you can choose, you know,
Yeah.
because obviously look, I think young people have developed, evolved different thumbs to what maybe our generation has, because they seem to hang up quick on their phones and their digital stuff. Whereas for me, it would be quicker to leave a message than to leave a voice message than to type.
They've actually adopted, the younger guys have actually adopted voice notes a lot greater than the older generation.
Really?
Yes.
So they're actually talking to each other once again.
Yeah. Well,
That's fantastic.
in broken segments. But you also have things which have changed, like voice search. So I've seen that a lot with my kids, for example. So they'll use YouTube and to look things up, they'll use the voice search.
Siri. What's the name? Siri.
Well, it's integrated into it, yeah. I mean, and Siri is one of those.
I mean, just can somebody explain, Megan, very quickly, Siri, how does she work?
I'm not sure. Mark's going to have to tell me.
Who is Siri? She's lovely. We adore Siri. Who is she?
So Siri is, I mean, it's a tool that lives on the phone that basically transforms, traditional search into voice search. So it translates what you're trying to look up and it searches the device. It's integrated. I mean, there's so many different platforms like that. There's Alexa, which is on Amazon's platform. It's some amazing tools. And it just makes it that much easier to search for whatever you need.
So I know that the next time Megan is back in the studio, at least Megan and possibly Mark and some of your other colleagues, we're going to look at the different forms of communication. And then I know also, Megan, we are scheduled to talk about WhatsApp whoopses.
Yes.
That you and I can, commiserate and then take it after
I've got a
that.
few more stories since we decided to do that, so we'll have some fun.
Yeah, after we've commiserated, we'll look at specific ways to make amends and ensure not only that it doesn't happen again, but damage control.
Definitely.
I think that's something we all need.
Definitely. Looking forward to it.
So thank you so much for joining me, and we'll continue this conversation in a different form in a month's time.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.